you're not repeating the cycle, it's getting worse. And in this rotation, okay, it's not just your rotation we're talking about, it's your partner's, and however many kids you have, their rotations. And let's be honest, you are not going to fit. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that have been in a program before, started over, did some work. Is it worth it? You never finished. You lost your motivation. You're just going to be your best, most authentic version. And then you found somebody else. You got disrupted on your journey because now they loved you. They approved for who you were. And so you got all this validation. And now my partner was obviously wrong. I don't care if you didn't verbalize it. You're thinking it inside. And you literally never finished your journey. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with like that. People getting divorced.
Tearing their families apart, coasting through marriage.
Or fighting their way through it. I'm Cass.
And I'm Kathryn.
We came back from the depths of hell to save our abusive, our toxic marriage.
We're MorrowMarriage.
Let's flip divorce statistics with the new marriage. Okay, guys. All right. So we are going to talk about why people stay together for the kids, and it's not what you think. Why did you stay together for the kids?
Well, I think two different things. One, which is the kind of the simple one, is that I didn't want to share custody of my children. That our babies were one, and we had a baby in my belly, and I was devastated at the thought of losing them 50% of the time. So that's number one. Number two, which is a much bigger concept, is that I was terrified in the time that I wouldn't have my children. I did not think that my husband was responsible or safe enough to be raising 3 small children. And I think that is where a lot of women struggle when they're in toxic relationships, they're in toxic marriages. So many people have a really loud voice and tell people that they should leave and that they should do this and that they shouldn't stay. And, it depends on the person. And I was not going to put my children in that type of situation.
Yeah, let me put this in a perspective here. And by the way, if you're a man, and I want you to really understand what Kathryn just said. I didn't want to leave my children with him. They wouldn't be safe, and he's not responsible enough. Now, I haven't met a man yet who doesn't think he can't. I can do this, and I don't really give a fuck about your ego, to be perfectly honest. Because I know the difference as I've watched myself grow in my life, i.e. my own really slow-ass growth that most of you do, right? When I met you, I didn't have an anger problem. That's what I said. It was always somebody else's fault.
Yeah,
right?
I actually asked him when we met if he had an anger problem because I was in a relationship previously with someone who, now that I look back, was not an anger problem. Now that I know what it is. But I said, do you have an anger problem? And he's like, no, I used to, but I've dealt with it.
I don't have an anger problem, okay? I never had an anger problem. All it was like, I'm at the grocery store and she's running the side of my shopping cart. I didn't just call someone a bitch. She obviously ran a shopping cart in.
Oh my gosh.
So anyways.
To do a whole episode on the shopping cart.
I think we talked about it in one of the episodes already, but anyway. So now she met me and I had a 3-year-old son, okay? And she watched as I parented him, how I took out my emotions on my child, not just her, but on him. Thinking I was better because I wasn't like my parents. Well, I wasn't like them, but I was nowhere near it. Just because you're doing the opposite of your parents doesn't mean you're doing it right. And by the way, along the lines, you're still going back to your old bad habits. Then we had our daughters, and I was really graciously trying to let you take over, really trying to do a lot more growth, thinking things were so good because I was no longer super crazy. I mean, there were times, but overall it was
like up and down.
Yeah, but the gaps were getting bigger and stuff. So I really thought like I was doing so great, which is where a lot of you men will fall into the trap. And then you said to me, hey, you have to love them too. And I actually got quite mad at that point. I was like, what? You wanted to do the mom thing. Like, I thought I was doing you a favor and like, I do all this and all the regular crap, right? I'm such a provider. Anyway, protect her, but you're not because you're yelling at your wife. Anyway, and then now fast forward, now I have a wonderful relationship with the kids. But in Riddick, I mean, the bond is even more there because I'm getting better and better and better, and I'm so much in more control.
Well, we turned a page while I was pregnant with Riddick.
Yeah, it was like the massive leap.
He got to be born into like a super family.
Yeah, that's right. Like the girls.
And I mean that. I don't have much humility when it comes to where we are today.
Yeah, that's why I say no couple goals, superpower couple. What do you want? Like, but that is the difference. So go back to what she said. Like, she was terrified of leaving me with them. So you must have been really scared to tell me you got to love them too, thinking I was just going to start to just completely implode, and then, as we nice guys do, we implode and then we explode. So you're staying with your kids, or sorry, you're staying with your partner for your kids. I don't really care about your journey. I really don't. You should not stay together for your kids. But does that mean you should leave?
No, and
No.
that's why I didn't leave.
That's right.
So I got to the point where I got so scared, emotionally, not physically. He never hurt any of us physically, and I don't believe that he ever even could have. He's just, that's not part of who he is.
Did physical things, but I didn't like
Physical intimidation,
Yeah.
but not physical abuse. And that's not good either. But anyway, my point is that I got so scared and so fed up that I finally said, this is where I am. I need you to know that I can't do this anymore. We need to make changes or I will be leaving. And I remember thinking, I've had a lawyer twice in our marriage. And I remember thinking, this is going to be the fight of a lifetime because I can't prove that he's not a safe parent. And of course, lawyers will tell you to start making notes and start tracking things and all these sorts of things. But I wasn't ready to leave, but I was ready to let him know that things needed to change. So I said, I need to do everything in my power to change my circumstances so that I know that if this ends, I did everything that I could possibly have done.
Okay, so if we know that you're not supposed to leave or stay together because of the kids, then that would mean, before we move on to the next, that would mean you remove the fucking people in your life that are telling you to leave. Remove the noise, first and foremost, okay? The next step. So next thing you might be thinking is, well, those people that are telling you to leave, they're also saying your kids don't deserve to see you guys like this, to be in a toxic home.
Which
you
is
don't
true.
deserve it, which is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But does that mean that you leave?
Not necessarily. And the reason I say not necessarily is because there are situations. I'm not sitting here telling you that if you are suffering abuse to stay. That is not what I'm saying. There are times when you need to be separate, you need to leave. One partner needs to do work. It's not just the men that are abusive. So sometimes it's the women, and the women can be physically abusive too. Neither partner needs to stay in a physically or emotionally abusive situation. There can be boundaries. But
There's a big but.
you don't necessarily need to leave. You know if you're safe. You know where that line is. You know where your boundaries are, and you know how hard you are capable of working to save your family. And the reason I say your family and not your marriage is because you're not alone anymore. If you have children, you're saving the relationship with your spouse, you're saving your relationship with your children, and you're saving your children's relationship with your spouse, and you're saving your children's relationship with each other. Because when you separate or when you get divorced, any of those things, when you fight in the home, when there's abuse in the home, anything, there can be some triangulation. One child might be close to mom, one child might be close to dad, they both might be close to mom and dad, they both might just kind of isolate from the parents. We want to have a cohesive family unit, and you know what that looks like.
And based off what we're about to talk about, then you, like, think about it this way. If Kathryn and I split, she would have essentially unleashed me and my narcissistic behavior, my narcissism, into the world, more full of rage than ever before, and putting that on the kids, okay? So when she says not necessarily, that what does that mean? What is the answer? It means you remove the stink in your home first, starting with yourself. It means that, have you done everything? We talked in, I think, episode 3 about enabling, well, I think in episode 1 and 3, different things, disrespect and peace, about how you enabled your partner. So let me put this into perspective. I treated everyone poorly in my life. Every girl I dated, okay?
People close to him.
Everybody close to me.
No one
okay?
outside of his inner circle he treated poorly, though.
That's right. And I would say that it got worse with every woman, okay? And it became the most destroying to Kathryn. Like, I destroyed her as a wife, a woman, a mother, actually a person, okay? And this is the one woman that I shouldn't have. I mean, obviously, right? But it's getting worse and worse and worse. So that's what I mean by unleash, right? So what did she do? What did I do during this phase? Was, well, I thought about it from a different perspective. It's not like I couldn't leave the kids with Kathryn, but I didn't want to tear my family apart, which is going to be most of you guys listening, right? Some version of, I don't want to tear my family apart.
And big
better
thing
example
is
for
you
your
didn't
children.
want to lose your wife.
I didn't want to lose my wife. Didn't want to lose my family. And so when you start to think about that, you can start to look within, right? She started to see the work that I was doing. She started to see and reflect on how she enabled my worst behavior. Not that it's her fault, not that it's Kathryn's responsibility, but just taking responsibility for the parts that you can control.
I needed to bring out some of my strength, because what happened was, because I was being emotionally abused, I wasn't as strong anymore, but I could still be that woman. And so when I thought, okay, I'm actually allowing him to treat me this way. Why am I allowing him to do this in front of our children? Why am I allowing this to happen at all? So again, he's not saying I'm responsible, neither am I. I'm not responsible for his behavior, but why did I allow it? And how could I be the woman that could start to set boundaries and express myself clearly, so not in defensiveness, not with contempt, because when we get in these situations, that's what we bring out is defensiveness and contempt. How could I express myself as a strong woman, not as a defensive woman? Not as an abused woman, a strong woman that says, no, this can't happen, this is how it's going to be, and then to put up those guardrails for him so that he could no longer do that anymore. I did, I enabled it, I allowed it, and I got worse in the process. So I had to look within and say, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong to be abused, but I sure did act in inappropriate ways, which exacerbated the abuse and the attack.
And so the point is, stop looking at your partner. Look within. There was obviously a great deal of work that I needed to do, obviously. And in that process, you learned there was a lot of work that you could do. I'm not going to even talk about the quantity, the density of the work, the importance of the work. It's all important. And it surrounds all the different goals. I didn't want to lose Kathryn. I wanted to keep the family together. I wanted to teach my children something better, every person that we speak to wants better than they had. I don't care if you had good parents. Every person that we've ever worked with, this is a normal thing. So start looking within and start taking responsibility. Start leading your partner back to what it could look like before you decide it's not fair for the kids. Because what's not fair is for them to have even one of you, if you're listening, and you could show them your best version, doing everything right, no matter what. That's not fair to your children.
And you know
now
what?
Imagine if it's both of you.
And you know what? Worst case scenario. How could it be a bad thing? Before you divorce, let's assume that you are going to divorce. Before you divorce, if you both look within yourselves, or even if one person does it enough to inspire the other person to start to do things differently,
Amen.
And then you divorce, then what do your children get? Then your children get two healthy households and two healthy parents separate. If you divorce in the middle of chaos and contempt and abuse, be honest with yourself. Are your children going to have maybe only one unhealthy side? In our case, they would have had an unhealthy side no matter how hard he tried. He hadn't worked on himself yet. And I certainly wouldn't be the woman that I am today if I didn't work on myself to save my marriage. So even if we did separate, which we didn't, thank God.
Yeah, we will not.
No, we will not, never. Prayer 5. Even if we did, our children would have two amazing families separate. But if we would have separated before doing the work, they would have had two toxic, I know that word gets thrown around, but they would have had two toxic households.
And I'm just going to throw this out there. You obviously know that I'm saying this all the time because it's so freaking important. I don't know why anybody is like you're not repeating the cycle. It's getting worse. And in this rotation, okay, it's not just your rotation we're talking about. It's your partners and however many kids you have, their rotations. And let's be honest, you are not going to fit. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that have been in a program before, started over, did some work. Is it worth it? You never finished. You lost your motivation. You're just going to be your best, most authentic version. And then you found somebody else. You got disrupted on your journey because now they loved you. They approved for who you were. And so you got all this validation. And now my partner was obviously wrong. I don't care if you didn't verbalize it. You're thinking inside. And you literally never finished your journey. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with like that. Second, third, fourth marriages. So listen, look within. Before you even talk about your kids, the reason you should be looking within as an excuse to leave your marriage. Because that's bullshit. Because you haven't done the work. Because most people don't do the work. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
They're not
most people don't
through.
know how to do the work.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's okay. We know how. So follow us.
Or love the plug.
Yeah.
Or find somebody you resonate with. But at the end of the day, you resonate is great, but follow the steps. Do they have all the steps? Follow through. because you haven't tried everything. You just haven't, right? Again, that doesn't mean that maybe you wouldn't have to end or part ways or whatever. You know, partner won't jump on board with you. I don't know. But at the end of the day, you haven't tried everything. You're just committed to not finding a solution. I just firmly believe that. Because if other people can do it, like us, like literally, almost all of your marriages aren't as bad as we were. So if other people can do it, so can you.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, guys.
See you next time.
See you next time.